my 2022, obviously doing well on paper, more clients, more variety, doing well. I'd moved into a bigger studio than the one in Barnsley, so I'd moved out to Hague, which was a lovely 3-story studio, dream studio. I couldn't believe I got it. It was mine and I could afford to do it up. At this point, just literally a month before backing myself and moving into this studio, which was massive, I got one staff member at this point, Alex, and he was my assistant full time. Basically, I could afford to pay him and everything. Thought I need a bigger studio. Like, if I'm going to be a premium and I want to charge good money and I want to have more staff to help me grow the business, I need to project a premium image. A back alley studio in Barnsley town centre is just not cutting it. So I found this studio for $550 a month and it were amazing for the money. Honestly, 3 stories. So we had the studio on the bottom floor, the middle floor was the office, and then the attic room at the top was like a meeting room. So we moved into the studio and I just signed my biggest ever client to date, which was actually a veterinary instrument company, and I couldn't believe when I sent this agreement out, I think it took a few days to sink in. The first deposit for this job was, let's say, pretty much my year's salary in year 1, 2. It was a lot and I couldn't believe it when it dropped in my bank. So this obviously opened up a lot of opportunities and options for me because I had money now to spend on doing the studio, maybe hiring. I actually hired an intern between kind of that time between being in the Barnsley studio in Day Street in the small little pokey office I had and moving to the bigger studio at Hague. I had Jacob, my amazing intern, so good. He built my website that you see today, so I had him as well. So that meant I could set Jacob on full time because I had the security of a monthly retainer for the full year plus ahead of me. We moved into this studio and then I also collaborated with Barnsley College on some talks, so going and talking to students and talking about business and giving paid talks on that. And then we also started working together on getting apprentices in and doing like work placements for their students in photography and video and marketing. So I had quite a few students through on that. And at this time I thought, do you know what? I've always wanted a Range Rover. I'd had a Honda Civic previously. I remember, it's quite funny really, just before I moved to the new studio, I got my Range Rover. It was 2 years old and got a picture of it in the back alley of this almost derelict studio that I were in at the time. So excited that I'd actually finally got this Range Rover. The only reason I got it was because my car would just fall into bits and wouldn't really pass a service. So it was kind of time, just sign that I just needed to get on with things. So that was like a good personal milestone for me hit. And everything looked successful. You know, I had 0 debt in the business. I had my car and PPC, but that's about it. I had good income coming in, but I ignored my dad's advice is turnover is vanity. What you need to be looking at, Colette, is profit. I ignored his advice for a good couple of years, and then it's only recently I've realised that his advice was relevant. Basically, back in 2020, everything was a dream. I had 7 staff on the books, some were full-time, some were part-time, someone in sales, someone in marketing, and at one point 2 people in marketing, a social media and brand manager, an assistant, a video editor, actually 2 video editors that were from college. So all these people helped me. I was thinking, this is amazing. For someone who likes to go fast, I was now at 7 times speed. It was great. I was also prepping for my first bodybuilding show in 7 years, so I was needing all the help I could get, I'll be honest, because, you know, I've been on prep throughout the whole pandemic and basically I was dying at this point, literally. Got down to 4.2% body fat at the end and I needed help, just any help possible. I did do some crazy things at this time though. I spent $7,500 on PPC with a massive agency up in Newcastle and got 0 back, which wasn't great. They definitely under-delivered and I just thought, again, spending more money on it would, just like when I did with wedding albums and samples, etc., spend more money, throw money at it, and it will be successful. And I suppose I might have been brought up that way. This didn't work and I didn't really know how to get back on track, to be honest, with the PPC. I just kept paying it and thinking, no, it will get better by month 3. It didn't get better by month 3, so obviously we just parted ways. I also spent a little bit later than that $7,000 on a telesales company to do some outreach for me. That didn't work either and I actually ended up getting out that contract early and saving some money, but still massive waste of time and loss. Nothing to show for it, and that's just how business is sometimes. In all this, obviously having 7 staff, amazing, speed, community, you know, company culture, we were having meals out, we were a team. Brought in some really amazing clients because I had helped to outreach, so people like C4, Bulk Powders did a shoot with us for a day. Lots of bigger names. Aldi used to have me going in regularly, but some smaller names as well in the wellness space. And this is when I was really trying to niche down into fitness and wellness. I'd not completely forgot about the corporate, but I was niching down more and more, realising that because I was doing a bodybuilding prep and it all connected, started building my personal brand as well. And I thought, do you know what? Yeah, I can see it here. I can connect personal brand to my actual work, to niching down, and it kind of all goes in a triangle. And I thought, yes. So this is when I started doing a little bit of UGC. And my first UGC video, oh wow, I've just found it today. Let me tell you, it's horrendous. I actually shot it in the toilet at work because we had a nice bit of wallpaper and it's overexposed. It's horrible. I don't even know how they accepted that. But they're still a client today, so that says something about our relationship together. Obviously, you know, you're attracting these big companies. I've still got the veterinary contract for shooting instruments and all. So I shot about 5,000 SKUs today. And obviously I wanted to make sure when you've got people like Bulk and C4 coming in to shoot with you, you look legit. So I got the big studio, I got the Range Rover, I got staff running around. You know, we made sure that we got lunch prepared, super organised, super professional, like a full content production studio. But everything was really just taking its toll on me, and I was the one responsible for it. And everything I thought that I wanted and I'd mapped out for the next 5 years, I thought, I don't know if I really want this. I'd planned and projected that I wanted 30 staff in the next 5 years. I'd gone to the ultimate detail of what computers they needed, what desks they needed, etc, etc, what it was going to cost for me to build to £1 million business. This had all been laid out 2020, 2019 before the pandemic. Obviously didn't move into the new studio until end of the pandemic, so started building again, and I just thought, I really don't think I actually want all these people. And some people left on their own accord, some people came to the end of their internship and I just never replaced them, and we kind of got down to like 1 to 2 people working with me. But I still had this massive studio that had loads of desks in it, like 10 desks, and just me. In the end it just boiled down to me. And the reason for this was because the company that I got the big contract from that really floated the business, 2/3 of my income, they renewed 1 time, but then they didn't renew the 3rd year. And so as a result, I had to basically pivot and act really fast, because there was a lot more money going out, tens of thousands of pounds a month, than there was coming in at this point. And I was like, crap, what do I do? I'd not set any buffer in place, I'd not saved any of that money, I'd just spent it all and I had no profit. And it took me probably a decade to realise that what my dad said to me was right. So also a thing that I realised at this time is you should always save for your VAT bill. Big mistake, one thing I didn't do. So I got the VAT bill that I'd been burying my head in the sand, thinking, nah, it'd be fine. Obviously it was fine when I was getting paid every month on a retainer. When they left, I still had the VAT bill to pay, which then I had to put it on a credit card and get money from the credit card, and I'm still paying the VAT bill off 3 years later. Not a good move. So massive lesson learned, and I'll be much more careful in future. Obviously that big contract had ended. I'd had to let every single staff member go. I'd got 1 or 2 freelancers on half the amount as what they'd previously been, doing things like blogs and SEO just to try and keep things ticking over. But everything's now falling back on me. In January 2023, I had a meeting with one of my clients, Angeline McLaren from St James's Place, and she said what we're going to do. Well, I'd finally admitted to her what were happening in the business and personally. I'd gone through a lot of changes personally, got divorced, etc. at this time as well, and she said, don't worry, I'll come, we'll have a meeting. I don't know why, it just dawned on me the night before I should actually probably look at all my credit cards, what I'd racked up all the money on, look at what I were paying out for the Range Rover. By the way, at this point I'd also bought a new Range Rover in this period of time, so really going for the lifestyle kind of factor of things. And I looked at everything and I thought, this was about 9 o'clock at night, typical me fashion, and I thought, right, how much do I owe? She was asking me all these questions about to come for the meeting, like what do you own, you know, mortgage, car, debts, credit cards, etc. Going through all the finances, and I went through it. I thought, oh, this will be easy, just fill it in. And I realised how much I owed, and I owed £15,000 that I didn't even know that I owed, which was really upsetting. I felt physically sick, and I thought, wow, how did it get to this? Really? How? Honestly, I was beside myself. I've never been a person that's been irresponsible with money, and it just consumed me in that moment. Anyway, so I went into the meeting and I was really embarrassed, obviously, because she's a client, and I told her what the situation was, and she was like, right, no worries. She was so good, so reassuring. Basically, I had to give my Range Rover back and pay £2,500 to give it back. I got got some personal savings from getting divorced, so I could use some of that money to help myself out of this hole. But I didn't want to spend all this money on paying off business debt. I just refused. I was stubborn and I just refused. I bought my car outright that I've got now from my savings. I bought myself a camera for video, and this is when I thought, right, yeah, I want to do video. Let's just do it. I can't see photography being that lucrative in the next few years. Video all the way. I tested video with some partners in the previous years, and I saw how busy they were, and I thought I could never get them. They were always booked up, so I thought I'm gonna have to start doing this myself. And this is only, bear in mind, 2023, and I thought, right, let's teach myself for a good 2-3 months. Let's teach myself how to do video. Obviously lots of fails, but once I felt really confident in doing it, about 6 months went by, I thought I could actually start confidently offering this to customers now. So I've been doing vlogging on YouTube for myself and things like that. We basically set a plan for now in this meeting. We set a short-term plan. What do we get rid of that I don't need? Subscriptions, etc. for the business and personal. Sell the car, buy a camera to earn more money, and then what do we look at? Temporary, so investments, savings accounts, and then what do we look for, like pensions and future, things like that. And that has just set me up so well for where I am now, basically, and I feel much more stable. So I walked out that meeting feeling a lot calmer and a lot more aligned with what I was doing, but still in debt. So I had to think, what am I going to do? So everything was consolidated onto one 0% credit card, and me being me thought, I can do this. I can pay off £15,000 in 12 months. Easy. And bear in mind, at this point, I weren't really earning that much still. So, you know, I'd just come from this contract that I'd lost all my staff, tax bill to pay as well in January. And I thought, no, I was just so adamant that I was going to do it and I was going to get it paid off in 12 months. I was about £5,000 short of paying it off, so I paid 10k off by October. And then I got a unexpected invoice from my studio landlord, which put me halfway back where I'd actually come from, back into debt, which completely destroyed me, because I just thought I've worked so hard, almost burnt myself out to get to this point, and now I'm back there again. So here we go again, and it was just an unsustainable pace. I couldn't pay it off. I couldn't put myself through that again. So everything that I'd worked towards had gone, and I thought what made everything a real business, the people, the studio, the staff, what made me feel legit, and what I thought seemed, you know, a real business had gone. All I was left with was empty shell of a studio with no people in it, and I'd had to sell my dream car, which just crushed me. And obviously at this time I didn't want to admit this to anyone else, but obviously Angeline and my family, so even admitting this to my family, especially my dad, was quite a difficult thing. So it got to the point where I was paying a bit of the debt off from the studio that I owed for the rent, and in the end basically he gave me another bill because he'd not been billing me properly, and that was the last straw. I just thought, I can't pay this £5,000 bill off again. I just can't do it to myself. I can't afford to pay the debt off again for the studio and pay monthly. And so in the end I just said, I'm leaving. It was October 2023. I gave my notice on the dream studio that I'd built, decorated, made my home. That was my safe place, and basically just decided that were it. I was going to move office at home and no studio, and I didn't know how that were going to go down with clients, but it's tough. I just couldn't afford it, and I'm still paying myself out of the debt now. It'll be September this year that I've actually paid the debt off from the studio, so it's took me 3 years to really just basically get myself right, and it's not been easy, but we're nearly there. I just figured that, you know, less stress, less overheads, I could get the debt out of the way and move on with things and start growing the business again, which is exactly what I've done. So we're 3 years on now from what I call the rebuild of Picture Perfect, and the business now looks very different obviously to where it did when I started in 2011. I'm doing a lot of things differently, focusing on one thing at a time, or trying to, which is still very hard for me, but delegation looks very different now. I've got trusted freelancers that I work with that support me and my clients. I've not got a big team, and I don't want a big team either. I want trusted people that I can actually work with and partner with, and most importantly I now have Claude AI to support me with my business, to automate what I don't need to do, and to help me unscramble my brain and help me creative think. And I've got specialists that I bring in for every single specific job that are all very good in that area, better than me. And the thing that I've actually learned is, all in all, I didn't need the 7 staff. I just needed maybe some good systems and some really great freelancers to make the business where it needs to be for my clients. And planning now now happens quarterly, not monthly, not reactive, and it builds momentum as we go through the year. And I always work backwards from the goal now, making sure that things are getting ticked off and we're working towards that goal on a quarterly, monthly, weekly and daily basis. Having a check-in with myself as well. That's the biggest thing I think that's changed. I used to be very reactive to what was in front of me. Now it's, is this part of my goal? Is this part of my vision? And bodybuilding prep taught me more about running the business than anything else, I think. It definitely teaches you to show up even if you don't want to. I think I've always had that in me, but it definitely teaches that. It teaches you also to trust the process, because if you don't trust the process, then what's the point? If you don't believe in it, what's the point? Another thing that I have been quite bad at, in past 15 years, I've learned now to stop renegotiating the plan with yourself. Stick to the thing you set out unless it's completely the wrong trajectory. Stick with it. Believe in yourself and back yourself. And bodybuilding is similar to business. Show it when it's hard. Treat it like a game. Make sure that you're going to win. And I think all in all, as long as you're consistent, that compounds over time. Do the work, follow the plan, and you'll end up at the end goal eventually. It's inevitable. I've mentioned this before in other videos, but I put out 329 YouTube videos before one person became a client over 2 years. That's what consistency actually looks like. That's what consistency does. It builds your audience. It makes sure that people are seeing you and you're being heard. It makes sure people know you actually exist. And the thing that I always come back to is, if you don't believe in it and you're the one driving the actual engine and the operations day to day, then who else is going to believe in it? It has to be you. The blocker in business is rarely going to be the market, the algorithm, whatever else you want to suggest it is. It's usually you, the founder or the business owner, who needs to get out your own way and let yourself get on with it, or find someone who will help you get on with it. Adding video and launching the coaching program, that wasn't a small move for me. I actually had massive imposter syndrome for it, but I made myself do it, and also other people encouraged me to do it who were around me as well. My family, they didn't understand it at first. They were like, why can't you just be a photographer? Like, why don't you just do wedding photography? And it took a good couple of years for them to actually realise I'm actually a coach for content now. I've earned the stripes. I've been doing this, over a decade. I can actually help people with their content, especially with online coaching and obviously helping fitness coaches. I used to get just asked this constantly, basically, about why can't you just be a photographer? Why didn't it work? Well, we're not in the same place as when I started in 2011, are we? Or in 2016 or in 2020. The world is a different place, so we have to move on and adapt and overcome. I guarantee that basically just doing photography, I would have been bankrupt by now. I'd have probably been working in Tesco's, which is nothing wrong with that, but still, it's not my dream. And adding video in January 2020, like I said, I was self-taught. I'd been doing photography for over 2 decades, and video I learned fast because I had to. Made loads of mistakes, all sorts of mistakes, and I'm still learning even today. But I put the time and the effort in, as I've always done with anything that I do, and made sure it's great for customers. And launching coaching pretty much within a month of it. Obviously, that was a completely new ball game, trying to understand people, how do they work? And I feel like I've finally got a grasp on that now, 2 years in. How do we actually need to encourage people to think differently? And how do we connect that thinking with content? These are all skills that I've really had to learn. And my first business coach actually said to me, Colette, one day you're going to be a coach. I didn't believe him, but now I do. So shout out to John Covey. And honestly, like with most things, even my Range Rover, even with the second studio, I made these moves and introduced these things into the business because I had to, not because I felt ready. And that's the thing with business, you're never going to feel ready. You've just got to crack on. So because I could see it coming, losing the contract, declining customers for photography, and then thinking, well, videographers are really busy, what's happening? And I knew I had to just take the plunge and get on with it and get out my own way. So that 1-2 pivots actually saved Picture Perfect and the business. It wasn't the rebuild, it wasn't selling the car and buying another one and everything else. The best purchase I've probably ever made was my video camera, which is ironic because I started video when I was only 10 to 12 years old, bought with the savings from my school bank account. I bought a Canon R8, so I've always been a Canon girl. So when people like to tell you, stay in your own lane, ignore them, because it's not true. You do you, and you do what you need to survive in this world, in business. So 3 years from now, where is the business? Where will Picture Perfect be in 2029? Well, for one, by 2027, I will 100% be debt-free. Finally, after 3.5 years of paying it off. And that's the first milestone that I feel like I will have achieved, really, in business. Having that tenacity, having the patience to work through that. That will mean a lot to me, and it'll give me the freedom. People talk talk about financial freedom. I finally know what that's going to feel like. And then once that paid off, obviously I can invest in my future, I can invest back into the business a bit more, carry on building things like my pension. And the thing that I'm actually currently building now is my AI system, which I've been building for the last 8 months, which can give me more systems that run automatically without me, so it takes less of my energy and I can put more of that into creativity. And I'm also building out a freelance team properly to support me and my clients as well. The things that help day to day and help free me up so I can actually give more of my time to clients and give better delivery and service. And in terms of building personal brand as well, I think it's important to build a personal brand with your content to help assist your business. For me, it looks like workshops and running those myself, appearing at other people's workshops, maybe speaking on some public stages and going on podcasts. And this is where Picture Perfect and Colette Evans actually start to become a real proper separate brand. So the coaching program will live under my name, and anything content creation or content led will live under Picture Perfect. And by the end of 2026 / beginning of 2027, I intend these to be 2 separate businesses. And the word for this year is actually stability. The word for next year I think actually should be freedom. Stability first, then freedom second. And it needs to be in that order, and that's what I'm chasing. Not freedom from the business, not freedom to do what I want, just freedom to work with the people that I want to work with and live a balanced life that I know I deserve to have. And that's because I'm going to have set the foundations first before actually having the freedom second. Because I didn't do this before, that's how we ended up rebuilding it twice. If I could tell 23-year-old Colette sat in a spare bedroom building a wedding photography business, what would I tell her? Honestly, just one thing. 15 years ago, I wanted holiday money and that's it. I suppose I wanted that freedom then. I would tell her, go for it. If you think you can't do it, you're probably wrong and you can do more than you actually think. Just give it a go. Because if you don't give it a go now, when will you? Anything's possible. If you're at the start of your business journey right now, or even halfway through, just believe in yourself, think it can be possible, and it will be. Back yourself a little bit. Give yourself a little bit of guts. And even if someone else tells you you can't do it, just ignore them and crack on. So that's 15 years in business. I'm Colette. Picture Perfect is 15 in 2026. Thank you so much for watching my story.